right, welcome to today's marketing interview. I'm here with Nino Monsalve, former marketing director of Downtown Realty and current marketing consultant. I hope this conversation is informative. I'm going to go through just a couple sections of questions. And Nino, thank you for taking the time and making this possible.
Hey, no problem. Nice to be here.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do in the marketing field, maybe a little bit of your background as far as industries.
I've been in the marketing industry for corporate marketing for about 8 years now. Started with a luxury brand, learned some ins and outs there, and then spent the last 6 years in commercial real estate marketing. Originally went to school for business administration, and I learned graphic design, and somehow those tied together to a reasonable knowledge for marketing.
No, definitely. I think there's multiple disciplines in a modern day marketer. I think this kind of leads into my next question. So how has those industries, specifically retail and real estate, how have they become more of the, call it, content kingpins? And then how are you working with those industries today as a freelancer?
Yeah, well, I think especially with retail, when it comes to commercial, there's just so much that's needed as far as marketing. It's almost endless. Retail is retail's either starting or it's ending, and when it's ending, it's usually something else is about to come right in its place. So I think with retail, especially, it's just kind of been this place where these days, as a marketer, you're expected to know more than a traditional marketer used to know, let's say maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think now, there's an expectation of more diversified knowledge in other things besides just marketing, social media, graphics, photography.
Yeah, data, we talk about strategy a lot. I guess more curious about the terms we're hearing in the freelance marketing field and in the small business marketing environment is like omnichannel. What does omnichannel mean specifically to you as a marketing consultant for multiple industries? Because this is such a widely used term today.
Yeah, I think omnichannel really to me makes me think of wearing multiple hats. Whereas there used to be a clear division within the marketing team and the graphics team, I think now it's all kind of becoming one thing. I think more and more people leading marketing roles have to understand how to create the graphics and how to put things together just as much as a graphics person would need to.
Right.
They have to have that vision also, and not just request things. It's like they need to have that vision and know themselves also what's needed and how to put it together.
No doubt. Now, when you speak of knowing the know-how from top to bottom, from A to Z, we consider sometimes content marketing is like an assembly line. Would you say there's a specific trend outside of omnichannel that you're noticing in marketing, particularly with the industries you work in? And I guess a lot of people would say the trends are kind of centralized and omnipresent. So where do you see trends today, and what are some specific ones?
Yes, I think maybe some of the trends, going back to what I said before about just marketers being designers these days. It's not just hey, requesting different media and having other departments do things and then bringing it together later. It's kind of it's all getting put together in the one department, it seems like these days. I mean, I know that there's still bigger agencies that still follow a more traditional model. But I think that now more and more employers are expecting their marketers to understand everything and not just marketing specific things.
Right.
Well, it
Is
all
there?
has to, it's all marketing, right? But like it's, I just think that they're expected to know more these days.
Yeah, I think we can say that there's a need for multiple hats to be worn, and expectations are obviously continually increasing with video and with iPhones and the smartphone. Now, are there any like softwares that you recommend to freelance marketing teams or organizations that one are free that people could start with, and then I guess from that, which paid subscriptions do you advocate and why, and what are you using today?
Yeah. I mean, as far as free, I mean, I think there's definitely some free tools out there, but I think to really get the right end result, you need more, you need some tools that probably wouldn't be free. I think a good example of that is the Adobe Suite.
Yeah.
Obviously that's used in almost everything from video, graphics, animation, so having access to that suite and knowing how to use those tools has been crucial, especially for me. And I think a specific example in commercial real estate, and I believe that there's a lot of tools like this for other industries, but for commercial real estate, a good example was that we used was a program called Build Out, because on Build Out you can first of all you can create flyers or decks right on Build Out, but you can also take the decks that you've already created, import them into Build Out, and then it exports them to all your channels that you have, social, eBlast, um, any other kind of any other kind of things that need to be put out so for people to see. It puts it all out there where you can only have to make changes in one place,
Hmm.
and it puts it all out without having to do every single thing manually. So I think there's definitely a lot of tools for businesses to have smaller marketing teams. I think is what it really comes down to, more agile marketing teams.
Right. And I think what we're picking up on is like automation and the drag and drop mentality and like the consolidation we see after COVID from the workplace and from office sizing, having at times, and now coming back to the workforce. We're seeing companies are on hiring sprees, and it's just hard to find call it solidified experience. Now, where do you see like automation and templates and kind of the combination of the two taking off in terms of generating content just in troves, and do you think that's good for the industry that this has been like commoditized so just easily, and like you consider the ability of a consumer now to take a professional picture just with their phone? So looking for that kind of analogy, I guess the question
No,
is this good or bad for the industry?
well, I think especially what you said before, where COVID kind of happened, and a lot of things had to change. But the interesting thing I think is that these changes were already happening, but then COVID accelerated it, right? It made it so that it was, maybe it was going to happen more in 5 years, and it kind of made it happen in 2 years, where you
Mhm.
have to be able to have these tools and put out work that's just as good as a team or as an agency, and maybe it's only one or two people working on it.
Mhm.
So I think that there's definitely a lot to say about whether the work is as good or comparable to a full on agency marketing team with 10 people versus some of these newer, we'll call them skeleton crews, where it's two or three people running the whole marketing uh, team. And I think that it's pretty close, honestly. I think that it's really, really close to being just as good as having a full marketing 10-person team. I think it's there. It's almost there. I think not in a few years time. I think that will be the norm.
Yeah. Obviously, we see the prices, monthly subscriptions are only going up. But in any case, I guess, what do you consider that current concept for small businesses and for the freelancer, and even for the bigger companies? Where has branding come, you think, for retailers and for real estate brokers and even, small businesses? What does branding mean for your clients today?
I think that nowadays people who wouldn't have understood branding, they know what branding is now. Even small businesses are aware of what branding means and brand recognition. So whereas, there may have been, some of the bigger mid-sized businesses and larger corporations that had branding that people recognize and knew. Now I think a lot of smaller businesses are able to do that with these tools. They can create their branding, and if they don't, like I said, again, not to keep going back on this, but they don't need this whole team to do it. They can just do it themselves almost.
Mhm. Yeah. So the well, all the more power to them. But then it begs the question, like, what segments is it easier to work as a freelancer, given you're a one-man team versus these call it barriers to entry for other segments when you are a small business marketer, or you are a 1 to 5 person marketing team? Is there avenues, or rather, segments of the economy where you find that they need marketing, or they're more interested, say, in smaller creative teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to dollars. With the smaller team, you save money, and if you can get just as good of a product in the end, or even close, I think cost conscious companies are going to be going that way more and more.
And do you see those companies in particular industries right now?
Um, I mean, definitely in the industries that I've been working with, absolutely. Commercial real estate and small business. They're just, it's almost a no brainer.
Interesting. How would you say you keep up with current events and the content cycle as a marketer? It's good to have kind of a tap on the audience and your target consumer. So, how do you keep up to date, working from home or working as a freelancer?
Well, haven't really thought about that, but what comes to mind right away is social media. I mean, when we look at Instagram, when we look at Facebook, there's an ad in between every there's an ad or two in between every two posts that our friends post. So it's in our faces, it's there in front of us, and I think that a lot of the trends, the things that we can connect with emotionally, a lot of things that make us feel something when we see that. I think it's easy to see those things and say, okay, well, here's the way. Here's a path that I could take. Here's one way to do this, and it's just there's so many examples out there that it's easy to come up with. I don't want to say emulating, but I think that a lot of times people are looking at what's trendy and then uh, doing something similar.
Would you draw a line between a fad and a trend? And then, is it important to understand that as a marketer?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it like, it's like, does your client want instant gratification, or is it, are they here for a long haul? And I think that those two things, I think people need both of those things. It just depends on what that specific campaign wants at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess coming to you now more personally is questioning, like, what's worked for you particularly, and is there anything like specific you would recommend that's helped you push when times are slow, or when clients are uh, making things difficult, or when the specific content you're gearing for is just tough to create? Is there anything that you've kept top of mind?
I mean, sometimes when maybe at the beginning of a project, I think a little easy shortcut that we take sometimes is to say, hey, are there any brands that you follow that you like the energy, that you like that it made you feel something, that it made you, that you connected with it, and that you want your clients to have that kind of a connection with? So I think sometimes when you start a project and you have a vision of what they, at least what the owner, or what the business owners have in mind, I mean, it's a great help in that sense to at least have like an idea, a foundation of what their vision is, and then see how you can take their vision and make it, connect to audiences.
Right. So you talk about the idea of like modeling visually and objectively for the clients. And nice. So do you use like so you're using probably Build Out and those programs you mentioned, Adobe Suite. Is there anything you recommend as like communication between teams, rather like something that you mentioned can kind of help kind of focus sample work or sample portfolios?
I mean, the truth is we're always looking for the next best, CRM or anything that's going to help us organize our work
Mhm.
better. And I think there's just so many out there. There's too many to name. I would definitely say that right now, something that helps us is Trello.
Okay.
I mean, that just helps us at least get our ideas up there so that the whole team can see it, and then there's no question of, hey, where's this? Well, I didn't see this. Well, if it's up on the Trello board, I mean, it's there. But I think that there is just so many that I think that I think it comes down to like actually filtering through all these different tools that are out there, and then finding the one that fits your specific brand.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think. So, is there anything that you would recommend for like a future generation of marketers, or like a young student in college per se, for marketing, or even somebody that's switching industries? What would you recommend, and what advice would you leave with them?
As far as recommending any specific tools, I wouldn't. I mean, Adobe and things like that. Obviously, those are no brainers. But I think what I would recommend, or at least a point of advice that I would give someone, which I actually did, someone who's studying marketing today. She's in school right now, and I told her, I said, well, don't let them don't let them ask you to wear too many hats, because once you start wearing too many hats, the work suffers. So it's like try to make sure that you're doing your work within what you're good at, and not trying to do too many things at once, because once that happens, it's more like people are taking advantage of you.
Yeah, well, it makes me think of the jack of all trades, but master of none. Really
Yeah.
refers to like a master of one is better than a master of none. And so, yeah, it's interesting you say that. That comes up a lot for creatives, I'm sure. In any case, last question. This just came to me personally. Having worked with you in the past and seeing the integration now with like video and just creators and influencers, how do you see the intersection of media and marketing kind of becoming one and the same? And do you say you recommend somebody study marketing strategy, or do you really recommend somebody go and study graphic design and production? What's more important? I mean, who are you starving for on your marketing team?
I mean, yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it's really hard to say what's more important. I would say that they're both important. So
Right.
I think if someone had an understanding of both of those things, graphics, design, and marketing principles, I think they could really go far
Yeah.
in this industry, because knowing those things and being able to do those things yourself, while also also being having a team to do it, but you also being able to do it, I feel like it comes from the heart more. And I think that these days the audience you want the audience to have that connection. And that's, I feel like that happens more when it comes from someone who understands.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Well, Nino, I appreciate your time. I think we got a good amount of questions out, and it was a great conversation. So I just wanted to thank you for your time, and really appreciate getting to understand your process and the genius behind one of Miami's best marketers. So thank you for your time.
That's very kind of you to say. It was my pleasure.
Take care. Take care. And guys, make sure and like or subscribe.